our new members, and our guests. Guests at last in person. It's amazing. We haven't done a run through house rules in a while. We haven't needed them. Sorry? Talk much louder. House rules, can everybody who is not needing their phone for recording reasons, please put it on silent or something to not disrupt our speakers whilst they're speaking. Bathroom is somewhere downstairs. Don't ask me. I've been here before. So this is our first hybrid meeting. So things might get a bit janky. This is the first time we've gotten things in the setup before. So when you're speaking, this is the mic for your speaking. You should be able to speak fairly, just be able to project to the back, and this mic should be able to hear everybody. Our online audience is this camera over here. So when you're making eye contact with Dawn or with Lucia, do a quick into the camera over there, just to include our online people as well. And everybody there will also be able to see behind you if you are making eye contact with our online audience. If there's any feedback, forgive us. We will try and solve that as quickly as possible. And Kirsty will quickly hit the mute button there if something's going funny. That'll generally just help us. So thank you, and I hope we have your patience tonight. Over to our president, Terry Winchell.
Welcome to live. How exciting. What I'm going to do quickly, what we don't normally do, is I'm going to go around the table. Can you please just introduce yourself? I know you Toastmasters, 20 or 30 seconds, else you'll be here all night. Just for the visitors, new people, and we've only seen you on Zoom, old people. I'm going to start with you.
Yes, of course. Thank you. My name is Kirsty Scully. I became a Toastmaster last year, around about the beginning of last year, so I didn't get many opportunities to meet people because, of course, we went into lockdown. So a number of you I've only really got to know through Zoom. My primary role in life is the fact that I'm a mom. I have a 22-year-old son, and from a career perspective, I'm a financial planner.
Thank you. Indy.
Hi, my name is Indy. I'm probably not allowed to be here because they only accept people at 18 and I'm 17, so that's great. That's my mother, obviously. She drags me along to all the weekends.
Enough. Dawn.
I'm Dawn Corin. I've been a Toastmaster for 8 years now, and it's so lekker to meet you live here.
Nice. Lucia.
I am Lucia Ballard. I also like Kirsty. So I really went to a few meetings. I love
I am Matthew. Yay. Software developer, and I've been here for 3 years. Been a while.
Thanks, Matt. Hilton.
Hi, I'm Hilton Ashford. I officially joined Toastmasters during lockdown. So,
Brave man.
yeah, there has been somewhat of a funny life. But also just enjoying the process and finally getting to see everybody again.
Fabulous. And I forgot your name.
my name is Swan.
Welcome. You're a visitor.
I'm a visitor. I heard about Toastmasters from India. He was in Singapore. He was going like I'm working for
Fabulous.
Yes, I'm an agent. Also, that means they must have art speaking.
Yep.
Right. Your turn.
Okay, thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. I'm Advocate Dan. So I joined Toastmasters in 2019 in Singapore. My professor instructed me to find one when I arrived in South Africa. So I came here once, then it was locked down. So I'm excited to be here again.
Fabulous. Welcome. Michelle.
I'm Michelle Abraham. I started with Toastmasters last year, towards the end of the year, and so I have not seen any of you ever. It's lovely to see you all. My work position is I'm an executive manager with the Actuarial Society. Yeah, that's me.
Welcome, Cameron.
So I'm Cameron. This is my first ever meeting as a Toastmaster. I've been to one as a guest. I feel like I timed this pretty well. I'm going to save the introduction for my speech because that's the whole point of it. So,
John and Michael. Here.
Hi, I'm John Hamilton. I've been a Toastmaster for 9 years exactly this month. And for my sins, I'm a health and safety consultant and trainer, but also a trainer of facilitators. So helping people learn to speak and present with character of humour.
My name is Michael, and like Cameron, I'm doing my icebreaker tonight, so I will save it for that.
All right. Oh,
I'm Chris Ledlam. I've been a Toastmaster since 2010. I've been not attending the lockdown meeting so much, so I feel like it's my first time.
like a virgin.
Hi, my name's Shane. I joined Toastmasters in October of 2015. And for the last year or 18 months, I've just taken a break. So I've come back to have some fun.
You're back. On the 3rd of February 1960, the British Prime Minister, Harold Macmillan, addressed the South African Parliament in Cape Town, and he said, "The wind of change is blowing through the continent, whether we like it or not." And it feels very much exactly what's happening now, 60 years later. The wind of change is blowing across the whole world. COVID has upset the apple cart, and we expose many flaws in the system and in ourselves. So changing times need us to change. We need to change our minds. We need to change our beliefs. We need to change our behaviors. So thank you everyone who persevered with Zoom and lockdown and still hung in and just got us going. So tonight is a trial. We can see if it works live, if it works hybrid, if the restaurant works, if we don't cause a super spread event. Very open to any suggestions. You can email me, Matt, or anyone afterwards to see how we can do it better. And it takes all of us to make this environment safe and to make this club vibrant. So I need you all, please. And here are some appropriate words from 162 years ago from Charles Dickens. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom. It was the age of foolishness. It was the epoch of belief. It was the epoch of incredibility. It was the season of light. It was the season of darkness. It was the spring of hope. It was the winter of despair. So I think whatever we're going through now, people have gone through over the ages. We're not unique. I appreciate you all being here, and I appreciate you all on Zoom over there. And I would like the timer to explain your role, please.
You have to stand here then.
Good evening. The role of the timer is obviously to keep you within the time zone of your allotted time for tonight. So your speeches, obviously you will get green at 4 minutes if it's a 4 to 6 minute speech, or if it's a 5 to 7 minute speech. The first peep on my phone, you will get green. Thereafter, a minute or so later, you will get yellow, and you have to wrap up with red. Go over red, we write it down. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Shane. Matthew explaining the voting, how the voting works, the best speaker, best evaluator, and best table topics. Okay. How do you
So for voting today, everybody here and everybody online, can you just WhatsApp me your votes on everything? On Zoom, I might put up a poll if I have time, but I might be frantically doing many other things. But yeah, WhatsApp me. My number is on the WhatsApp group. I'll put that out. And to our guests, yeah, we'll do a whole channel. It'll be a, what's the broken telephone? And in the end, I'll choose who wins. Cool.
The role of the grammarian is to listen very carefully to whatever the speakers are saying and to take particular cognizance of their wording, to look for any perhaps improper words, and also to look for any words which were particularly good, such as good quotes or good sayings, which are used. The other part of the role is for me to give you a word tonight, a word that I'd like you to try and include in your speech. And the word I've chosen for tonight is elusive. Elusive. I'm going to give you a description of what it means. It means for something that is hard to find or difficult to find. It could be something along the lines of those beautiful cats are so elusive that we only see them at night time. Another one could be, it was a hot, hot day, and I sat in the doorway trying to feel the elusive wind. So I'd like to ask you to try and include that word, elusive, in your talk tonight. Thank you.
Let the speaking begin. Our very first speech tonight is Cameron. This is, have you spoken at a Toastmasters before ever? Right, he is an elusive Toastmaster. Cameron is doing his icebreaker. He has 4 to 6 minutes. Chris, could you give us his criteria on his evaluation, please?
The criteria, the icebreaker is to introduce himself to the club, to discover skills, speaking skills that he already has, and to identify areas that you may need to work on moving forward as a speaker.
Thanks, Chris. Can you give it over to Cameron Coots?
Sorry, Steve, has Chris for his evaluation for
It's very late this afternoon. Thanks to Terry for my
Do you need a piece of paper? Mrs. Grace. Right, you have 4 to 6 minutes. All yours.
Do you want
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is actually easier, thank you. Who am I? My name is Cameron Coots, and my mission is to look for the good in humanity and profit drive. I'm an industrial psychologist and I'm an entrepreneur, leading a business where we help entrepreneurs improve their leadership capability and their strategy, and we help them implement what it is that they want to do, right? But to further answer the question of who I am, I think I can go into a little bit of my chronology. Going backwards, I live in Cape Town, I live in Claremont. I attended UCT for my master's degree as well as the business science. Before that, I was at boarding school in Hilton College in KZN. Before that, I grew up in Johannesburg. Beyond this, it starts becoming a little bit tricky to answer the question of who I am. When I start unpacking this and thinking about my identity and the way that you can absorb and relate to me, it becomes quite difficult. So when I have this polished veneer that you can find on social media, not vulnerable at all, it allows you to understand a brief thing about me, that doesn't answer the question. So in order to think about that and take off that first layer of who I am and move the surface level, the next way that I can answer that question is, what is my personality? Anyone who understands this, I am ENFP, Enneagram 7, I could go into the 15FQ plus or the OPQ, multiple personality assessments to explain who I am. But even with this deep explanation and the 4 years of therapy that I've been in and all the self-exploration, why does it still feel so elusive to answer this question? Who am I? When I start now unpacking these labels of who I am and thinking about how I can answer this question more in relation to other people, maybe that might help. So I'm a son. I am an only child. I grew up with my mother as a single mom. I am very close to both my grandparents. I am a boyfriend quite recently, actually a week and a half, it's been official. We're doing long distance students in Joburg. She is an attorney. I am a friend, I'm a community member, I am a house owner. But now this is when these labels start getting there and I'm starting to unpack this and think, who am I? The more I go into this, and the more examples I give, it becomes harder and harder to answer this question. So what else can I give you? I can tell you about my childhood and the pains I've experienced. My father abandoned me when I was young. I had no friends growing up in school, even though I went to one of the most prestigious high schools in the world. I had no friends. I was constantly bullied. I was constantly ostracized. It was a very difficult time for me. This is really, I've had a very close relationship with the emotion of shame. This has been a big part of my life and something that I've had to really deal with moving forward. I get to this point now of explaining who I am, and it starts becoming quite anxiety-inducing because what else is there? I've taken everything off in terms of layers and possibilities so as I can answer this question. And I'm confronted quite existentially with this void of nothingness. Where do I go from here? How else can I continue this rhetoric of who I am? And I stand here feeling like I'm looking into a void of nothingness. Because how else can I answer this question? And this makes me look back at myself and actually say, who am I? One of my favorite quotes is that if you can't explain something simply, it means that you don't know well enough yet. And if I turn that on myself, do I know who I am? And going down this thinking and getting here and where I'm sitting now is, I can't answer this question. And how can I not answer this question? I'm 27, turning 28. Surely I've had enough life experience that I can do this. And it starts to make me feel frantic and worried, but how can I not answer this question? And I do this over again. Who am I? Who am I? Who am I? And when I'm confronted with the silence, the only other thing I can think to ask is actually, it's not a void. It's actually a blank slate. Because what have I done this entire time in explaining to you who I am? I've told you stories about myself, interpretations about who I think I am, and how I talk about myself in relation to others and in relation to you in a way that you can try and comprehend who I am, which is something that is quite incomprehensible in terms of the dynamism that makes up a human being and their identity. So actually, leaving this, when I ask the question, who am I, based on the fact that it is actually a story and a narrative, the better question that I will leave you with is, who do I want to be? Thank you.
Next speaker. Fabulous first speech, putting you all to shame. Yo, our next speaker is going to be a Zoom speaker. I'm going to ask Maria, sorry, Lucia. So you'll come and talk here, and we don't have to move the camera. While you explain that, I'm going to set the marker up on live. It's going to be a real test. And we need to move this.
So my first speech tonight is the power of manifestation.
and he's presenting a speech on research and present an unfamiliar topic. Organize the speech clearly to maximize your audience understanding, craft a clear and engaging transitions between main sections of your speech, use and cite sources to support speech content, and make a source list. Thank you.
Have you ever wanted to achieve? Oh, sorry. Yeah. Can we hear me now? Okay. I'm supposed to.
Marco, can you hear me? But I've killed the wrong mic, I think.
I think someone put some mark off. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, but you might need to talk up a bit.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Try again.
Someone, can you hear me better now?
Yeah, fine.
Is it better now? Okay, now we're testing. Now we're good.
Marco, why have you got two mics on? Because you can only use one, else we'll get feedback.
Also, the sound from the second system.
Oh, and Marco, also your second system, you need to turn the sound off completely because it's picking up feedback. So, do you need that second system? Oh no, he's muted now. Oh goodness.
Sorry, I'm busy intervening to help. I'll get everything sorted out. Okay. Can you hear Marco now?
We can. All yours, Marco.
Yes,
Okay,
you can hear me. Yes, oh, good. Fantastic. Do we have my slideshow presentation? Sorry, Terry. Do we have my slideshow presentation?
Okay, just give me a second. So Marco was going to show it from his side.
I do have it, yes, co-host. Sorry to make up. Am I right, Timmy? Am I waiting for the co-host, myself to be co-host?
Right, I'll make you co-host.
This is I wish I was there, guys. I'm so jealous. Come on. I need to join you guys sometime.
Marco, you are co-host.
Am I now co-host?
Yes. So you can show your PowerPoint from your side.
I will do.
Sorry, guys.
I apologize about that. Right. I'm just going to make it bigger. There we go. Have you ever wanted to achieve a goal so bad that when you wake up, the first thoughts on your mind and the last in your mind is like a mega wish to such a point that actually happened? Now, I've experienced the power of manifestation to such a point that it scares me. I choose to embrace the fear and not let it paralyze me. Now, there are two thoughts when you start manifesting, positive and negative. The first, obviously, being positive, you have to find confidence. You have to be positive at all times. You have to have so much motivation that you know, the first thing in your mind is the first thought in your mind doesn't be is just gets you. Sorry, I've lost my mind. Sorry, Terry, I do apologize. I do have messed up. And let me just carry on from here. On to negative thinking. No, there are a lot of people that have thoughts in their mind that just bring them down. You mustn't let those thoughts get to you. The law of attraction. You know, at the end of the day, you do project what you are thinking, whether it be positive or negative. The people around you are the ones that matter. You know, it's what you get is what you give is what you get, and it's really it just gets to that. Our subconscious mind. I do apologize, everyone. I've really gotten to. I've really messed this one up. The thing that I keep on doing are 7 deep breaths. I tend to take 7 deep breaths. If we can do this together, it would definitely help. If we can't, then 7. I tend to do that 7 times. When I do that repeatedly and repeatedly, it gets a subliminal and logical thinking alignment, potentially unlocks the future. Right now, you can see that my manifestation has been negative. Negative thoughts may have been throughout the week or throughout the month that I may have had. Hence this evening. Maybe also confusion, manifestation of all the confusion that's going on at the moment has made me think, oh gosh, Marco, you can't do this, because that is what I'm thinking right now. And unfortunately, that's the negative thought. Once again, I shouldn't let it creep in. The positive thought should be, Marco, you know what you're doing. If I had practiced better, it would have been a whole lot better. It would have been a lot more positive thinking, saying, just, okay, we practice this, Marco. You've got this. Unfortunately, as you have experienced, the manifestation of negativity has crept in. And subconsciously, I have prepared this, all of this, but subconsciously it's gotten to a state where I thought I couldn't speak. But right now I've become confident again because I do have the confidence. And like I said, I wish I was there. Maybe not being there, not the uncertainty of what's going on at the moment now has gotten to me. But I've got my confidence back again. Back when I was competing, I had the confidence walking on stage. I could see the people. I can't see anyone right now, so it's very difficult. And yeah, you know, getting to my personal state, those who do know me, and I get into a very positive state when I'm in a good rhythm of training. The moment that the rhythm isn't there, but I can promise you one thing, it will definitely pick up again. So yeah, thank you so much for your time. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster and fellow Toastmasters that are there. Thank you very much. I hope I got my time right. I don't know if you can hear me. Do I have this book? Yeah, so much better than my wife. Don't do that. Back to me.
I haven't turned. Right, our next speaker of the evening is Matthew Dickey. my experience in digital health. His evaluator is a letter of Shah. The letter is actually on Zoom. So we're going to try this again. Matt, you want to come up so long? And I will, you just turn this off for a moment and I'll turn the letter on.
Okay. So Matthew's project this evening is managing a difficult audience, and guess who the difficult audience is going to be? Each and every one of us listening to him. So the purpose of this speech is for him to practice the skills needed to address audience challenges. And these are challenges that obviously you're more likely to get outside of Toastmasters than inside of Toastmasters. So he has prepared a 5 to 7 minute speech, but the assignment actually allows for 10 to 15 minutes. So the extra time is all for the disruptions that we might throw his way. And my role as evaluator is not to evaluate the content of his speech, but to evaluate the manner in which he addresses these objections and keeps going. So we're relying on the audience to give him a really good value for money experience. And Matthew, all the best to you. The title, as Terry said, is My Experience in Digital Health, Matthew Dickey.
It's terrifying. So as you know, I'm going to be heckled, so don't worry. You guys can also throw a heckle or ask a question and disrupt me. So good evening, everybody. My name is Matthew Dickey, and the purpose of this presentation is to for me to practice dealing with an audience that's going to bug me, because I'm giving a talk at UCT Careers where people are going to be throwing random questions at me. So I'm going to be talking about my public health experience and giving students advice on how I got to that. Terry, are you listening? I am. So to give students a little bit of background into how they can get into digital health, public health, I'm going to just give you my history on how I ended up here, because this was not my goal from the start. Why not? Interesting. Why was it not my goal from the start? Actually, my goal from the start was to be mostly in genetics and neurobiology, actually. But as I went through my degree, I started off in biochemistry and genetics, and I realized that. Please, sir, could you keep your comments for afterwards? So I started off with genetics and biochemistry in my undergrad, and I realized that was not the way of the future. The way of the future was more on the lines of public health and digital technology, and I grew up. And what makes you sure? What makes me sure about that? It's just when we're doing certain courses, it was all about Zoom master. Could you please remember to keep everyone muted? Thank you. I knew it was the future because a lot of our courses were just introducing new tech that was used for solving public health problems and genetics problems. So that is definitely going to be the way of the future. No more lab monkey busy with a pipette and a bowl of bacteria. That was not, in my view, going to be the way of the future. So
you change the rate. What do you do if something changes with another food in the end? And then you become obsolete.
Sure, but thank you, Dawn. I knew it wasn't going to become obsolete because that had been a trajectory for the last 10 years. And so I was fairly confident in what I was doing from there. So with that confidence, I ditched the science faculty at UCT and I went into the medical faculty at UCT that had bioinformatics. And for those of you who've never heard of bioinformatics, I hadn't. Bioinformatics is the merger of biology, statistics, computer science, genetics. So it was really seemed to be the future in my
What's
mind.
that word?
Bioinformatics.
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 Thanks.
It's a pleasure. And in bioinformatics, I got exposed to the health campus. And the health campus was where I got to do really cool electives.
I said this curious thing.
Excuse me. Would you mind taking calls outside? Thank you.
Sorry.
I will. In bioinformatics in the health campus, I was exposed to obviously health electives, and there I got to do population genetics and tissue dissections, and it was really, that's where I got my exposure to health as opposed to genetics and biochemistry. So it was really a new door for me. And coming up to the end of my honors year, I was kind of thinking it would be nice to earn money after my honors year. So I started looking for a job. And throughout my bioinformatics career, I struggled with the software side, so the development and the working with programs and all of that. I grew up on a farm. I didn't have internet until 2013. That was a foreign thing to me. And so I knew I needed to really brush up on some software. So we'd done a bit through my undergrad and a little bit in bioinformatics. So I went and looked for a software job. And the first company that tried to hire me was an accounting firm. And I was like, this is definitely not the way that I want to be going with my background. And so I hung out a little bit longer, taking a risk and hoping for a company more related to what I wanted to do. And I ended up at a non-profit called Gemby Health Systems. And they snatched me up because of my background. And they put me in. So in the health system, you need to know, basically you need the bio side to link to the tech side to be able to connect people and their doctors and their results and their lab stuff. So that's how biology works.
Yeah.
I'm going to interrupt. I'm allowed to interrupt once each person, just so you know.
But it is definitely not email. But if email is part of your system, sure, you could definitely count that email as part of this tech to biology system. Thank you for your comments. And so I was planning to be a software developer to really up my tech skills to make myself a better bioinformatician. And yeah, I got hired by a public health company, which was really a good, what I felt was a good move. But in public health, in tech, to be able to understand what doctors need, what your patients need, and that was kind of my exposure on medical campus. So they realized that I was understanding the context of the projects that I was working on far better than a software developer. And so they had me as a software developer and then started piling on all this other stuff. They kept me on as just a software developer, but they're like, you understand this. You can do some analysis in this. You can do some business analysis here. You can do some statistical analysis here. And so they started piling that onto me. And then I got promoted to a mid-level software developer, but they just piled on more business analysis and context analysis. And then finally, when they tried to make me a senior software developer, I was like, no, I'm an analyst as well. So they changed my title to developer and analyst. So now I do two jobs at the same time for the same pay. And it goes well, and it's going great. You would think because it's a non-profit that they don't pay well, but they have to, or else they wouldn't get any software developers. Software developers are not cheap people. So if any of you are looking for a job, come talk to me. And that is how I ended up going from genetics and biochemistry, well, starting off with no internet, farm boy, coming into genetics and biochemistry, moving into more computers and biology, finally ending up in health and technology, which, looking back on it, I wouldn't trade it for any other career. Thank you.
Thank you, the interrupters. My goodness. Right, our next speaker of the evening is Michael McIver, and he is being evaluated by Kirsty. Kirsty, you take the stage.
All right. So Michael is going to be doing the first of his speeches. It's going to be his icebreaker in presentation mastery. And the title of his speech tonight is Bone Marrow. Michael McIver, Bone Marrow.
Right, in the right position. 4 years ago, I stood before you when I did my CC work and told you that my life's motto was to suck the bone marrow out of life for as long as I could before I died. The speech then went on to cover some of life's contrasts: love, personal freedom, victory, loss, much to John's delight, a story about a man better known as the wolf. Fast forward 4 years, and my life's motto is in a crisis. Life has become a tad dull. What with one girlfriend, a high maintenance daughter, a mortgage, COVID, and an inability to travel. Dull indeed. And just when I thought I was doomed to a life of boring mediocrity, just last week, out of the blue, an opportunity arose for some proverbial bone marrow sucking. We would swim Chapman's Peak. We would swim Chapman's Peak. You cyclists, be damned. We would enter the waters from the sandy, we would enter from the sandy shores of Noordhoek, swim around Chapman's, and then on to the Hout Bay beach. The forecast looked good. Challenge accepted. Problem one was a 6 kilometer swim. The furthest we had done before was 2.5 kilometers. Problem two, Chapman's Peak is notorious for its unpredictability of at weather conditions and at water conditions, unpredictability. Problem three, with a water temperature of around 13 or 14 degrees, we weren't really sure how our bodies would cope with the extended time in the water. With the less gung-ho of our swim group, questioning the sanity or insanity of our little adventure, a friend suggested that I talk to the NSRI, the National Sea Rescue Institute. I put forward that surely it was a better idea for them to prevent a crisis rather than deal with a national emergency for 4 middle-aged idiots looking for an adventure. And I'm delighted to tell you that they took the bait and that they said that they would watch over us for the entire duration of the swim. So, all those little problems solved. But let's not let these little details get in the way. We were excited, we felt alive, and that bone marrow trembled as it knew it was about to be devoured. Spoiler alert. The day before we left, a great white was spotted off the Hout Bay Harbour. My God, the water's cold when I first entered, but within seconds I was oblivious to it as adrenaline just surged through my body. Our swim had begun. The Chapman's portion of the swim was tough. really because the water was rough. And the simple reason for that is that the waves come in and they bounce off the stone cliffs of Chapman's, and then they come back at you and literally rough you up. But after 43 minutes and 2 kilometers later, we passed Chapman's Peak Point and we entered the larger Hout Bay area, where the sea was materially calm. The sun was also fully in the sky by this stage, and the sea was a deeper blue azure. And when we were swimming, we could see down by 2 or 3 meters at a time. Lucky for us, something we hadn't factored in is the current was in our favor. So we made steady progress at a good clip. After 5.7 kilometers, 1 hour, 44 minutes, and 1,618 calories, quite literally, taken off below the belt, the 4 of us exited the sea of Hout Bay Beach. As we waved goodbye and said our thanks to the NSRI crew for watching over us, the team leader looked over and saw nothing less than a large dorsal fin. My takeaway is, we didn't expect to finish the swim, so we're all exceptionally proud of ourselves, and it feels great. Takeaway number 2. We still can't believe that we made it. So what's next? It is possible. And number 3, if you want to swim with great whites, always make sure you swim with others. Your chances of getting munched decrease materially. And just for the record, if John thinks I'm embellishing a bit about the Sharpie, I'm not. I'll put the picture of the shark on the WhatsApp group after. Toastmasters, my name is Michael, and despite the graying hair and the ever-receding hairline and the ever larger belly, my life's motto remains. I can't remember. To suck the bone marrow out of life for as long as I can before I die. Thank you.
I guess you're all interested to know I ordered the start on bone marrow, so I will pass it on to Michael. Right, our very next speaker is John Hamilton, and his evaluator is Dawn Curran. Dawn, could you come up and tell us what John is going to speak about?
John is speaking about time management, managing time. The purpose of the project is for the member to observe his or her time management patterns. And he can speak about anything that he wants to, but the member may choose to speak about a time management exercise he or she completed during the project. So it's all about him doing the time management project. Thank you, John. And the title of his speech is Tempus Fugit, which I don't think I pronounced right.
Tempus fugit. That's Latin for time flies. And boy, oh boy, it certainly does and is an elusive commodity, especially when you're having fun, so they say. We've all experienced times when things go smoothly without rushing or stressing, but more commonly, most people would say that much of their time is spent chasing the hands of the clock in their ever-full life as they try and cram more into their overstuffed schedule. Well, the challenge for me in preparing this speech has been to try and pass something encouraging onto you and those online that will inspire and encourage us to make more effective use of our elusive time. There are long lists of do's and don'ts which could fill many speeches, so I decided to focus on just one of them. One of the strategies I've used, which is, gotta find my lines, goal setting. a strategy I've used for quite a while. During the past few months, and especially during lockdown, and again in the last couple of months, I've had reason to reconsider the goals I've set for myself, where I really want to go, what I really want to achieve in the next few weeks, months, and years. A couple of months ago, our fellow Toastmaster, Kirsty Scully, presented a speech titled, Are you surviving or thriving as an entrepreneur? And part of her speech touched on this area of goal setting, which was a very helpful nudge to me to get me to reassess my goals, which have become a bit slack in the last little while. I don't know about you, but as a school kid, I always found it quite a challenge to set goals. So I was quite happy doing what kids love to do, enjoying life, playing, and just making the most of every day. But as I started work, and especially when I started my own business, I found that goal setting became a must. As without them, I know that I could be busy, but not really achieving very much. I'm sure that many of you are masters at the art of goal setting, a somewhat enviable position to be in. So some of this may be normal to you, but for those of us who need some encouragement in this area, here are a few pointers to help us set and achieve more effective goals. So number one, have a goal. I know it might sound pretty obvious, but as John Maxwell, the leadership expert, says, and is often quoted, the most important thing about a goal is having one. There are lots of nice and even noble ideas and desires, but they need to be actually and intentionally set as definite goals. So make sure you have a definite and achievable goal in mind. Then, number two, write it down. This point immediately brings to mind the quotation which says, write down the vision and make it plain. This is where our goal setting starts to become really practical. A few years ago, a friend of mine suggested that in writing my goals down, I should go a step further and actually find a picture which visualized my goal, and then I should stick it somewhere where I could see it and be reminded of it as often as I looked at it. Not a bad suggestion. And I'm sure that many of you have made dream boards, visualizing those things you'd like to have or achieve. So write it down and stick it in a visible place. Adding to this point, as well as writing it down, we also need to write down the practical steps which are going to enable us to reach and achieve the goal in the optimum time. As a goal with no steps for achieving it usually just remains a nice idea. Number three, have a mentor or an accountability partner. We as a club have certainly proved that having a mentor can help you to be focused and accountable in goal setting. And it's one of the reasons why we've been such a successful club. And a mentor can be a practical blessing when you can't always make sense of things, or when life causes you to have to change your plans. And if you don't have a mentor within Cape Town Toastmasters yet, I would suggest and urge you to contact Terry, Matt, or Lucia, who will be able to connect you with a mentor fairly soon. And the mentor will walk with you and hold you accountable for the personal growth which you want to see in yourself. For most people, though, accountability is one of the least attractive parts of goal setting. Very often, we like to go it alone and do our own thing. But having a good mentor, an accountability partner, who will hold us accountable for working towards the goal, is one of the most constructive steps we can take. As their input and possibly persistent pushing could be the difference between goals being achieved or just remaining as that nice idea. And lastly, number four, set a date and a deadline. Again, this is one of the steps, together with having an accountability partner, which is where we find out if we're really serious about our goals or not. Stephen Covey, in his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, suggests that in step one, we should always start with the end in mind. And if we set a date and a deadline for the goal's completion, we must start with the end in mind, and even may be able to visualize what the completion will both look like and how we might feel to have accomplished it. These 4 points are just a sample of the many steps to more effective goal setting. In conclusion, I would encourage you to persevere as perseverance is rewarded little by little. It's rarely easy, but although giving up might seem to bring some light and temporary relief, you always end up back where you started, or worse, giving up altogether. Remember why you started and what the goal is. If it mattered enough to start, then it should matter enough to keep going. Even with just these points I've shared, we can learn to manage our elusive time more wisely and effectively. And I trust that this will encourage you to manage your time more effectively as much as it has me, because tempus fugit. Madam Toastmaster.
Shane, should we do the timekeeping, please?
Cameron. Nice speech, well done. Your time, 5 minutes and 24 seconds. Marco, your speech, slightly short at 4 minutes and 14 seconds. Matthew, your speech, came in like a Boeing at 747, 7 minutes 47 seconds. Michael, your speech, 6 minutes and 8 seconds. And John, of course, is very well timed, 6 minutes and 59 seconds.
Well done. And Shane. Matt, we're going to vote for the best speaker now. Matthew's going to explain to you how we do that. And while he's doing that, I'm going to go and tell him that we're putting the food. Is that fine? Perfect. Okay. Could you talk about who's getting delivered? How everyone votes for best speaker. Okay, guys, we're going to vote for best speaker. Matt's going to tell you how to do that.
What's that mean? Thank you.
Does everyone have your number? Can you please WhatsApp Matt, with who you think is the...
I will.
Yeah, I'll join him. Right, guys, you can all relax. Can everyone relax?
I'm still waiting.
Oh, but they can vote while they have the
Yes,
supper.
they did.
Right, your meals are coming. You can order another drink if you like. Go to the loo, do what you need to do. Everyone on Zoom, are the Zoom people voting on the poll?
No, no fault.
Oh, the Zoom people, can you also just WhatsApp Matt, please? And enjoy. It's a break until 20 past. 20 minutes? Leave it on. 20-minute break. Yes, of course.
Okay. Sorry.
Don't turn it off as fast. I can turn it on, mute it.
No, I just wanted to check in and
How do I mute it? Fun is over. Or in fact, maybe it's about to begin. Hope you all enjoyed your dinner, and we'll try and sort out the bill later. What we're going to do is we're going to get the report back from the evaluators on the speeches. And our first evaluator is Chris Adlam, who is reporting back on Cameron's speech. Over to you, Chris.
Well done in breaking the ice in our first live Toastmasters meeting in over a year. You took your stage, you stood in the spotlight, got everyone's attention, and you told us a lot about yourself in a way. You took us a little bit on a journey, and you touched on certain things. And as you spoke, you grew in confidence and you became more and more comfortable. And in the beginning, you were a little bit holding back, but as time went on in the speech, you started to relax. Your body gestures were good, your eye contact was excellent, especially for your first speech. You didn't use notes or anything, which is a good thing. You did something that's a very powerful thing in terms of being a speaker, is you made yourself vulnerable in a way. So you shared an element of vulnerability, you shared a bit of the theatrical approach in taking the clothes off as a metaphor, that also kept us entertained and kept our attention. So that was a good gesture that you did. In terms of being vulnerable, that was your strongest thing in your speaking, and it's a powerful tool to use as a speaker. And you spoke about undressing and undressing, and it's like, and I'll use a different analogy, it's like an onion. You're peeling the onion, and when you get to the center of the onion, there's nothing there. But the reality is that those layers that you're taking off, that's who you are. That's your story. That's your journey and your story. So I'd like to encourage you to dive deeper into that vulnerability and to share the story. You touched everything on the surface, and you are very brave, but I think you could be even braver by maybe taking snippets of that story and sharing with us your story. And all of us have had challenges in our lives, and we can then buy into your story, who you are. So I'd like to encourage you to stand up in the future and dive deeper into that vulnerability and share the story instead of tipping the surface. But well done. You definitely grew in confidence as you were speaking, and you had great gestures, great eye contact, which is very important. Yeah, don't be afraid to put on a show. It's good, and well done.
Nice to have Chris back with us. He's been hiding away for a full year. Our next evaluator is Lucia. Lucia, I hope you could hear Marco, because I have to say I struggled somewhat. So we'll be very impressed with your feedback. Marco, are you listening? Just go, Chris. It's recorded. So. Thanks, Lucia.
So Marco's speech was really lovely, and what I like about Marco is that he's sharing his journey with us, and every week we kind of see, and you can see from when he initially started, and I can see that progression of confidence and how he's progressed, and also to see his journey after what he's experienced in his life. So his topic's always interesting, always fascinated to hear his stories. He's got great slides, good eye contact, and he's the position of his camera setup is really good. You could see his facial expression like that. Great vulnerability as well, which can be quite a strong point. And I always see this courage that you have that comes across. It's that determination and courage that you do have, and it makes you
quite authentic when you have that vulnerability, because we understand that the struggle that you are going through. And yet through the struggle, you can also portray the courage of your journey. Perhaps to work on is your tone, maybe a bigger vocal range in your speeches, maybe more expressive. Also the sound quality, I think it was just with the connection wasn't as clear, so it was difficult to hear everything that you were saying. And then perhaps to end off a little bit stronger with a call to action. This is what I'm going to achieve. This is what I want to do. Your personal call to action, and also your vision for yourself. So we saw what you used to be, and maybe now this is my dream, and this is where I want to progress, and this is where I want to be. So perhaps a picture of somebody walking and say, this is my dream and my vision, and we're absolutely going to back you, and you're going to achieve it. Thank you.
Our next evaluator is Aletta. I'm going to fiddle around here and get a list.
Thank you, Terry. Matthew, it's an interesting assignment when the audience is briefed to disrupt you as much as possible. In general, I think you handled it very well. You were very calm, and I think part of that was due to the fact that you knew the audience very well. You were in a friendly environment, so you kind of kept your sense of humor. You were totally unfazed, and I almost felt like you were sitting at a family dinner putting up with people who interrupt you the whole time. That's the kind of relaxation that I felt was emanating.
Sorry, we missed the first part,
again.
Part of your speech. Demands. Yes.
No problem. I get to do it again. So Matthew, well done. It's quite a task having to confront an audience that's deliberately been briefed to disrupt you. And although they put up a valiant attempt, they weren't hostile. So it was kind of friendly banter more than anything else. And from your side, I felt that you were completely unfazed. You remained calm. You had a sense of humor. I almost felt like you were at a family dinner putting up with family members who interrupt all the time. So all that was very good. You were firm when you had an audio issue. You said, Mr. Zoom Master, or can the Zoom Master please attend to it? So you directed someone else to fix the issue. And it was interesting to note when you started telling stories, the disruptions eased off, or it could have been that the people had all exercised their one interruption and therefore left you alone for the rest of the speech. I think what you need to work on, if this was another audience that wasn't so friendly, that we didn't know as friends, you would need to be far more authoritative. And for instance, if someone's phone went off, you would perhaps need to say, can everyone please just double check their phones are muted, and kind of take charge more than you were, because you were very sort of responding, but you weren't proactively addressing an issue that might happen again. I think also, and it's going to sound contradictory when I'm telling you to ask everyone to mute their phones, there's also another opportunity that at first glance doesn't seem to be authoritative, but yet is incredibly effective, and that is to use humor. So if the phone goes off, you can just say, tell mom I'll call her back when the meeting's over. Please just mute your phone so she can't call again. That kind of thing. If someone sneezes, as I think Shane did in a spectacular style, then just say, bless you. So it's kind of taking control of the situation and putting your brand of humor on it. And in the same breath, you are taking control of the entire situation. So those are the two areas, just working on your authority level. And I think it would be different if it was a different audience. You would probably automatically go more into authoritative mode and experiment with humor. So then when something happens, you can seize on that opportunity to make a point that everyone finds humorous, that just gives a bit of variety to the presentation. So well done, and may all your audiences never be as hostile and disruptive as this one. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Well, that seemed to work quite well from Zoom. So our next evaluator of the evening is Kirsty Scully. She's going to evaluate Michael McIver's speech. Over to you, Kirsty.
Thank you, Terry. Michael, well done. Always good to hear you speaking. I had no idea what I was going to be hearing about tonight when I saw the title Bone Marrow. I mean, that could be anything. But you had a script. You had a script from the beginning. Your speech was clear. Your body language was good. You were confident. I love that about your speech. There was lots of opportunity. It made me realize there is lots of opportunity, I should say, for in the future to be speaking about your swimming. I think that's fascinating stuff. I think it's certainly a very interesting topic. So definitely something you could be doing this in the future. You use the words, your adrenaline surged. And that whole surge, I could just feel it. Even though I wasn't there at the time. But the words, for me, were very good. Adrenaline surged. You had a script. You had a script waiting for that elusive shark. Because we knew you were going to tell us about shark at some stage, because I can only imagine swimming around the Chapman Sea, there's going to be a shark or two. So it was clearly there was going to be one there, but you had a script listening for when the shark was going to come into your story. So I want to encourage you to continue setting goals for yourself as you suck the bone marrow out of life before you die. Well done.
Right, our final evaluator of the night is Dawn Corrin, who is evaluating John Hamilton. Over to you, Dawn.
Tempus fugit. I never knew that actually meant that time flies. So thank you for that, John. You always have a wonderful way with words, and that came through so clearly in your speech structure. Your ideas are so clear, the speech is so beautifully structured as to guidelines that you must have a goal, you need to write it down, you need to visualize it, and how that you, the steps that you need to achieve it, and most importantly, that you have to have accountability, come mentor. So the speech structure I thought was superb, absolutely brilliant. I actually liked it as well that you actually brought in right at the beginning that Kirsty had given you this idea of experimenting with your own goals. So the fact that you brought Kirsty into the speech. Suggestions for improvement. John, I used John for those people that don't know John intimately. He helps with our youth leadership and he teaches specifically vocal variety and body language. And that was very lucid tonight. Because usually when John gives any speech, the vocals are there and it's like this booming voice and then fades down to nothing when he wants to stress a point. And his gestures are wild and magnificent and he captures an audience. Sadly, although your speech structure was absolutely remarkable, I felt that we lost you because there wasn't, I know you. Maybe the rest of people that don't know John and the larger than life John didn't pick it up. But for me, I felt that perhaps if you redid the speech and reversed it a bit more, that you weren't, because your eye contact with the audience was also lacking because you were tending to read the speech instead of giving of yourself that you do so magnificently all the time. So beautiful speech structure. We'd love to see you redo it, but giving us who you are.
Call upon Shane Monroe if you would give us the times for the evaluators, and frankly, evaluators are a hard job to give people feedback and to encourage them at the same time. Over to you, Shane.
Chris, 3 minutes and 2 seconds. Lucia, 1:52. Aletta, 2 minutes and 43 seconds. Kirsty, 1:23. And Dawn, 2 minutes and 24 seconds. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you please all vote for your best evaluator? Chris, who evaluated Cameron, Lucia evaluated Marco, Kirsty evaluated Michael, I missed someone. Aletta evaluated Matthew, Kirsty evaluated Michael, and Dawn evaluated John. Could you please send them all to Matthew? And now the fun part of the evening. We are doing table topics. Everyone is invited to do it, especially visitors. If anybody on Zoom wants to do it, can you please just maybe drop me a WhatsApp and I'll put you on? Are you going to choose people or are you going to let people volunteer?
I'm going to choose. I'm going to do a combination. I'm going to say, sorry.
Okay, Michael McGuire is doing the table topics.
There are a little bit on the challenging side now. Decided to challenge us all rather than a subject of potato, like somebody did in the past.
Right, Michael McIver, table topics.
You want to get the guidelines for our guests as well.
It's what you have to speak, sorry, 1 to 2 minutes. I will give you the subject. And think about it for say 5, 6 seconds, and then the idea is that you speak on the subject for 1 to 2 minutes. So it's called impromptu, or it's called table topics in Toastmasters. So it is completely cold, it's unprepared. So if you think about it, like the speech that I did and John did, Cameron did, that was prepared. You know, we had time to prepare. Then the evaluators were what I call like semi-prepared. They had 10, 15 minutes to prepare for it. Versus this is completely cold. There's no preparation. So it's a little bit more challenging. And you tend to do a lot more ums and ahs as you try and get a bit of a thought going. And it is quite challenging tonight with some of the subjects I'm going to throw out there. So I'm going to nominate Shane.
Lucky.
Such a on the way here, I'm going to move to this side. Shane's subject is, what do a lot of parents do that screws up their kids?
Shane, you mustn't be informed. Yeah.
A lot of things that parents do that screws up their kids. And I am absolutely guilty of it. It's foul language and alcohol. I'm just joking. Alcohol, definitely. I do like to have a drink at night. You can see. But I don't like to swear in front of my child. I do it under my breath. I hope his hearing is not as good as his mother's. But I try and set good standards and good principles and good values in the home. It's tough. It's very tough when kids don't listen, and you will tend to go out of your way to try and accommodate to a point. But the best sound of the evening for me is when that cap comes off a bottle and I can relax. Thank you. I don't even know what the time is.
Indigo did the time for you.
Okay.
Right, our next line, let's go to somebody on the virtual audience. I'm going to go for a letter. The letter. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
We'll get some technology going.
You won't be able to hear and speak. So
Yeah, so, okay, you finish speaking, Michael, and then I'll put speak on here.
Okay, you can hear me?
You can hear me.
Okay. The letter, why does society place such a high value on beauty when it serves no functional purpose?
I think we all are guilty of this. We pay lip service to, oh, beauty is not so important. But let me tell you how important beauty is. Think about your last trip to the supermarket and whether you are buying apples or tomatoes or anything like that. If that apple had a blemish on it, you would reject it and you would look for one that was perfect. If you reach for a can of baked beans and it's got a dent in it, you reject it. You look for the perfect pear. So somehow we feel that we deserve the best, and whether it's beauty in an apple or beauty in someone else, we somehow are wired to respond to it. I think the only function beauty has is that it gives us pleasure on some level. It's not rational, it's not logical, and what you consider beautiful is very different to what I consider beautiful. But on some level, there's a chemical in our brain or something that fires when we see something we consider beautiful. And if you just think of all the different types of dogs there are, we can be very blessed that we don't all like the same things. So when some people have a pug and they consider that beautiful, and I've got a poodle and I think that's beautiful, and someone else has got a bull terrier and they think that's the best thing ever. So it doesn't serve a purpose except to make us happy on some inexplicable level and some elusive logic that we'll probably never understand. Back to you, Michael.
Hilton. Want to come up? Always music as you come up.
It's one. I'm actually
Jaws
because
music.
you're the one that's doing the studies.
Right, Hilton. What single event has had the biggest impact on who you are? Wow.
So many. My friend's wedding. That's the one I can think of. At that particular day, I was his best man, which it was one of the most hardest things to do. I'm going to be vulnerable here because at that particular moment, I was separated from my wife. So you're standing in front of a group of people and you have to give a best man speech for somebody that just got married. And you're full of anxiety and you have to explain to them, listen, this is what marriage is, this is how it is, but your marriage is busy failing. Makes no sense. Not at all. And here you have to stand in front of these people and you have to convince them that, listen, this is the thing, this is the way it's supposed to, way it's supposed to be. But what happened on that day was something very fantastic. There was a lad there, name was Andrew Churo. He was a master of ceremonies. And he was so dynamic. And he was so, you know what, he was so expressive. And I looked at him and I thought, wait, I would actually like to be like this guy. And know this, I actually found out afterwards that he belongs to Toastmasters. And guess what? Coming back from Joburg to Cape Town, I then looked to myself for a Toastmasters club. And today, I am here. Thank you very much.
Do you think the future will be better than the present? Why?
I believe the future will be better than the present because there will be a future without COVID. And for that one reason only, I could say that it's going to be a better future. That's for number one. Number two, I do believe the future will be better than the present because we will all be better than we are today. I myself can tell you that. I was not here a few weeks ago, and now I'm standing in a place full of people who might have done it. Not even 3 weeks ago, I might have thought this is a dangerous thing. What am I doing? But I took a risk, came out here tonight to meet all of you. And I think it's made me a better person already, just coming out here, hearing all of you. And so my future is going to be better. I hope my speaking to you is going to give you something to make your future better. But yeah, I do believe that the world will be a better place once we are rid of the virus. And we will all make it happen. Thank you. Thank you.
everyone. Yes, visitor.
Sorry. You're married. Okay, before I start asking. I get punched or something. Right. What is the most crucial thing for a healthy relationship?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. What I think is one of the crucial things for a healthy relationship is where partners, the marriage mates, they don't let anything to be loose. This way, it all depends on the attitude, how you view certain things. In a relationship, in a family setup, fighting battles, the norm. If your relationship, they are not fights, you must know that it doesn't exist. But it all depends on your attitude. Are you solution oriented or you are problem oriented? Let me just make an example because one of the speakers who just came here spoke of COVID. If we were to look at COVID, COVID started in Wuhan in China. But if you were to look at which country now is leading in manufacturing vaccination, it is the same country that had problem with the same problem. So in a relationship, as long as you have a positive outlook, as long as you are willing to suck the bone marrow out of this relationship, you will definitely find that in this person that we are fighting because we have a common goal. We are dangerously in love, but there are always obstacles, so it can happen. Thank you.
Round of applause for Michael. Great table topic. Potato. Sorry, that's your name. Dan. Dan. Right, and over to the timer. And while the timer is giving the times, you can remember the names. Please vote for your best table topic and send them to Matthew. Shane, over to you.
Okay, table topics times. Myself was 56 seconds. A letter. I think you're about 1 minute 20. I kind of started a little bit late, so apologies for that. Hilton, 1 minute 19. Michelle, 1 minute exactly. Dan, 1 minute and 34 seconds. Thank you.
Thank you. Please can you run down while Matthew, are you doing your thing there?
Yeah, just gonna count the last of it.
Okay. Can you all please vote for your best table topics? Voted? Okay, could you time to vote and then I'll forward? Perfect. Okay, while you're voting, I would like to invite our grammarian up of the evening, Kirsty, who will give a report back on your English.
Well done, everybody. I thought the quality of work tonight was really of a high standard. I've heard some beautiful words being used, which I was most impressed with. And really, I can't say that I noticed any improper words. So I was quite happy about that. There were a couple of ums in the table topics, but that's quite normal because it is so spur of the moment that you're talking. So that was really good. A couple of things I want to just draw out if you want to go through. Cameron, you used two particular words which I really enjoyed. Rhetoric, the way you spoke about the actual art of speaking. You were excellent. So that was really good. Narrative, the story, the account of events that you went through, I thought that was also a really good word. So rhetoric and narrative were quite nice. That's a terrible word to use. But anyhow, descriptive words to use. I thought that was really good. Matthew, you started right at the beginning and you used the word heckle. And I loved it. it was a good word to be using. It was most appropriate because you were being heckled the whole way through. But you did teach me a new word and I had to write it down, bioinformatics. It's something that I really don't, I'm clearly not clever enough to be talking about bioinformatics, but thank you for that word. And you were most polite in whatever you said. You were most polite. Well done. Michael, I said earlier when I did the evaluation for you, I love the way you spoke about the adrenaline surge because I thought that word was excellent to use it. You also spoke about azure blue, which is just such an unusual way of talking about blue, which is lovely. So that was good. And you, on a couple of occasions, used the word materially, which I think is a very good expressive word to be talking about. And in your case, you talked about the chances decrease materially of being eaten by a shark if you're thought about that before. And then John, that was a new word for me, tempestivity. Yeah, Latin, so Latin time flies. I like that. I also like the word that you use, visualizing. So I thought that was an excellent word tonight. Well done, everybody, and keep up the good work and try not to be elusive.
That's still counting. So while we're waiting for Matt, does anyone have any suggestions for our next meeting? Does anyone know what the date is? 28th. 28th. 2 weeks. Are we going to have it here again? Are we happy with this? Do we feel COVID safe? Yeah. Raise of hands if you want to do it here. One thing. Perfect. It looks fairly unanimous. Does anyone want to look for another venue? Or are we happy with this venue and this room?
It's cool for now. I think Marco, if he ever comes to meetings, will show it.
I don't think he will come to the meeting, not while COVID is around. So, I mean, and I thought the Zoom interface worked quite well, except for once we worked out the feedback and Margaret was struggling a little bit.
There was just some speakers, some bigger speakers.
Yeah, so they have got speakers up here, which someone stole their amp at the last meeting.
Terrible.
So for the next meeting, hopefully we will try and project the speaking up there, but I think it worked fairly well tonight. And your bills are coming, you have to sort it out in your groups. You're going to bring credit card machines, so because I'm sure a lot of people will pay with credit cards. And while you're sorting out the money stuff, I'll wait for Matthew. Once you've paid, then I will give you the winners of the evening. But please feel free to WhatsApp, email, phone me if you can think of any suggestions. WhatsApp me. Can we have a drum roll, please, for the best table topics? And the best table topics goes to our visitor, Dan.
Yes.
Don't ignore what it says on here. We just found these today. I'm going to do that, and we'll do a. Perfect. Well done. Thank you very much. And let's give it over for our best evaluator. Excited to award it to Dawn Corrin. And the best speaker of the evening. Oh, this is better now. For his first speech ever, Cameron.
Yeah, Cameron's too tall.
Thank you. Thank you. Well done, everyone. Thank you, everyone on Zoom. We're going to shut down now and sort out our money. You're welcome to stay for a drink. And thank you. Thank you, Matthew, for having me.